The photograph was on the desk. He noticed it immediately. Not because it was unusual. Men like Victor Soren kept family photographs on their desks. It was part of the performance of being a certain kind of man, the careful display of what they wanted you to see. He had worked for 3 employers like this. He knew the performance. He noticed it because of the woman. She was standing slightly apart from the others. Husband, 2 children, the arranged composition of a professional photograph. The slight distance was nothing anyone would analyze. Her smile was correct. Her posture was correct. He had been doing this work for 11 years. He recognized correct. Dmitry Koval, Victor Soren said. He did not stand. He looked at Dmitry across the desk with the assessment of a man who bought people for specific purposes. Former FSB, 8 years. Then private sector. References. He closed the folder. Why did you leave the last position? The principal relocated abroad, Dmitry said. I didn't. You could have. I had reasons to stay, Dmitry said. Soren looked at him. I need someone at the house, he said. My wife, my children, full time. My previous man retired. He paused. I travel frequently. I need someone I trust completely when I'm not there. Dmitry looked at the photograph. I understand, he said. Do you? Soren said. You need someone who understands that the priority is the family, Dmitry said, not the principal. When you're absent, the family is the principal. Soren looked at him for a moment. Yes, he said. Exactly that. He held out his hand. Dmitry shook it. He started Monday. Subscribe right now, because on the 3rd evening in that house, Dmitry Koval is going to see something. He's not going to stop it. He's not going to call anyone. He's going to stand at his post and do his job. And the next morning, he's going to put his resignation on the desk. And when Victor Soren asks why, the answer is going to be one sentence that changes everything. Stay until the end. He had grown up in a house with a specific atmosphere. He did not think about this often. He had processed it long ago in the way that people process the things they were raised inside. Not with drama, not with ongoing grievance, but with the steady integration of information into a worldview. His father had been a man of managed surfaces, correct in public, different at home. His mother had been the specific kind of strong that looked, from outside, like composure. He had left at 17 and joined the military at 18, and had not gone back except for his mother's funeral. At the funeral, his brother had said, "You always knew when to leave." He had thought about this for years. He had not known how to answer it then. He understood it better now. He had not known when to leave. He had known when staying became complicity. That was different. Leaving was not the skill. Recognizing the line was the skill. He had spent 11 years doing a job that was fundamentally about protection. He was good at physical protection, the assessment of threats, the management of space, the specific competence of someone who understood how danger moved and how to position himself between it and the thing that needed to be safe. He was also, and this was not in the job description, good at recognizing the other kind of threat, the kind that wore a suit, the kind that had family photographs on desks. He had been very good at not acting on what he recognized. He had told himself this was professionalism. He understood now, standing in Victor Soren's kitchen on his 4th morning, that professionalism was the word he had been using for looking away. He was done with that word. The house was large, not ostentatiously large. Victor Soren was not a man who needed to announce his wealth with architecture. It was large in the functional sense. Enough rooms, enough space, the specific square footage of a man who had built significant things and wanted them reflected in where he lived. It was also, Dmitry recognized within the first hour, a house with a specific atmosphere. Houses had atmospheres. He had learned this over 11 years of living in other people's spaces. Some houses were loud in obvious ways. Some were quiet in obvious ways. Some had the quality of tension, the specific molecular weight of a space where people were careful. This house was careful. The children, a boy of 9 named Pavel, a girl of 7 named Anya, were careful. Not the careful of children raised with manners, the careful of children who had learned to read a room before entering it. Pavel moved through the house with the peripheral attention of someone who was always tracking something. Anya was quieter, stayed close to her mother, had the habit of checking the door. He filed this. Natalia Sorin was 34 years old. She welcomed him correctly. She showed him the house, the schedules, the children's routines. She was organized, precise, the kind of person who managed a household with the efficiency of someone who had learned that efficiency prevented problems. She was also, he could see, tired in the specific way that came not from work, but from sustained vigilance. He had seen this before. He filed this, too. He did not ask questions. He was there to observe and protect. Observation was neutral. He observed. The first 2 days were ordinary. Victor Sorin was at the office. Natalia managed the house. The children went to school. Dmitri drove them, waited, returned. He learned the routes, the timing, the specific geography of their daily movement. He was good at this, the patient mapping of a life that he was entering. On the third evening, Victor came home at 9. Dmitri was in the small room off the main corridor, the security station, monitors, the equipment of his profession. He heard the front door. He heard Natalia's voice from the kitchen. "You're late. Dinner is cold. I can warm it." He heard Victor's response. He did not hear the words clearly. He heard the tone. He stood up. He opened the door of the security station and stood in the doorway of the corridor. The kitchen was at the end. The light was on. He could see into it from where he stood. He saw. He stood very still. He was trained for this. The specific stillness of someone absorbing information before deciding. His hand was at his side, not moving toward anything, just still. In the kitchen, Natalia against the counter, Victor's hand on her arm, not holding, pressing, the specific grip that communicated something beyond what the gesture appeared to be. Her face turned away, his voice low. It lasted 40 seconds. Then Victor released her arm. He walked to the refrigerator. He opened it. He stood in the light of it, looking at its contents with the casual completeness of a man who had done what he needed to do and moved on. Natalia stood at the counter. She did not move for a moment. Then she turned. She saw Dmitri in the corridor. Their eyes met. He held the look. He saw what was in her face. Not fear of him, not embarrassment. Something more complex. The expression of someone who has been seen and is calculating what the seeing means. He stepped back into the security station. He sat down. He looked at the monitors. The kitchen camera showed Victor eating at the table. Natalia moving around him. Correct. Managed. He sat for a long time. He thought about the photograph on the desk. He thought about Pavel's peripheral attention and Anya staying close to her mother and the specific tiredness of a woman who had been vigilant for a long time. He thought about what he was here to do. He was here to protect this family. He was looking at the footage of the man he was employed by. He sat with this until midnight. Then he turned off the monitors and went to his room and lay on the bed and looked at the ceiling and understood, with the clarity that came after the processing was done, what he was going to do in the morning. It was Anya who made him certain. Not the kitchen, not the 40 seconds, not the way the house felt when Victor came home. Anya. She was 7 years old. She had her mother's coloring and her father's eyes, and the specific combination of qualities that emerged in children who had been paying careful attention since before they had language for what they were paying attention to. On the second morning, he drove them to school. Pavel sat in the back on the right side. Anya sat in the back on the left side. This was their established arrangement. He had not seen them negotiate it. They simply occupied these positions the way people occupied positions they had always been in. On the way, on the Sadova Bridge, Anya said, "Is it going to rain today?" He looked at the sky. "Probably this evening." She looked at the window. "Papa doesn't like the rain," she said. "He comes home in a bad mood when it rains." She said it with the specificity of a child reporting a known fact. Not a complaint, not a warning, just information. Pavel looked at his sister. He said nothing. Dmitri drove. In the rearview mirror, he saw Anya watching the sky. She was calculating something. He could see it. The child's version of risk assessment, the tracking of variables, the automatic and unconscious management of what the weather meant for the evening. 7 years old. He drove them to school. He waited until they were inside the building. Then he sat in the car for 3 minutes. He thought about a 7-year-old who tracked the weather as a predictor. He thought about what it meant that this knowledge was so ordinary to her that she mentioned it in the car without looking at anyone. He drove home. He made no decision that morning. The decision made itself that evening. He wrote the resignation by hand. He had a form on his laptop. He had used it before, the professional language of separation, the correct phrases for ending an employment arrangement with precision and without complication. He had written cleaner versions of this letter 3 times in 11 years. He did not use the form. He wrote it by hand because what he needed to say was not a professional form. He put it on Victor Sorin's desk at 7 in the morning, before anyone else was awake. Then he made coffee. He was on his 2nd cup when Victor came downstairs. Victor was a man who moved through his mornings efficiently. Dmitri had observed this for 3 days. Shower, dress, kitchen, coffee, desk. 35 minutes. The routine of a man who had no tolerance for the unplanned. He came into the kitchen. He saw Dmitri. He said nothing for a moment. Then, "There's something on my desk." "Yes," Dmitri said. Victor went to his office. Dmitri heard him read it. The silence had a quality. Victor came back. He stood in the kitchen doorway. "You've been here 3 days," he said. "Yes," Dmitri said. "You were recommended by 2 people I trust completely," Victor said. "Your file is—" He stopped. "You're the best candidate I interviewed." Dmitri said nothing. "I'll pay you twice," Victor said. "Whatever you were making before, I'll double it." Dmitri looked at his coffee. He thought about the right sentence. He had been thinking about it since midnight. There were versions that were diplomatic. There were versions that were professional. There were versions that said the necessary thing with the specific indirection of a man who understood the danger of saying it directly to someone like Victor Sorin. He said the true version. "I can't protect a family from the person they need to be protected from," he said. The kitchen was very quiet. Victor stood in the doorway. His expression went through something that Dmitri watched carefully. The assessment of a man who had just heard something that required a decision about how to receive it. "You don't know what you're talking about," Victor said. His voice was flat. "I know what I saw," Dmitri said. Victor looked at him for a long time. "Get out," he said. "Yes," Dmitri said. He put down the coffee cup. He picked up the bag he had already packed. He walked to the front door. He stopped. He did not turn around. "Your children watch the door when they hear your car," he said. "Pavel checks which direction you come from. Anya stands behind her mother." He paused. "They learned that. Children learn what they live with." He paused again. "They can also learn something else." He opened the front door. He left. He did not think about it as courage. This was the thing that people misunderstood about decisions like this. They imagined a dramatic interior, the weighing of values, the moment of moral clarity, the cinematic version of someone choosing right over easy. It was not like that. He had sat on his bed at midnight and understood what he was going to do the way he understood most things. Not through drama, but through simple recognition. He could not do the work if the work required him to stand in a corridor and watch and turn away. He was not built for turning away. He needed to work for people he could protect. It was not more complicated than that. He drove to his apartment. He was, for the first time in 11 years, without a position. He made a list of calls to make. He started making them. Victor Sorin stood in the doorway for a long time after Dmitri left. He stood with the specific stillness of a man whose control of a situation had just moved beyond his reach. He was not accustomed to this. He went to his office. He sat at his desk. He looked at the resignation letter, handwritten, one paragraph. The single sentence at the end: "I can't protect a family from the person they need to be protected from." He had known, when he read it the first time, exactly what it meant. He had known before he went to the kitchen. He had known the sentence before it was said. This was the thing about men like Victor Sorin. They were not confused about what they did. They had simply arranged their lives so that the people around them were confused. Confused about what they saw, uncertain about what they knew, afraid of what the knowing would cost. Dmitri Koval was not confused. That was the problem. Victor picked up the letter. He thought about doubling the salary. He had offered double. Dmitri had not hesitated. He thought about the men who had worked for him before. 3 of them over 8 years. All of them, in various ways, had learned to look at the corridor and see nothing. It was not something he had asked for directly. It was something that the job selected for. The way certain environments selected for certain qualities. Men who stayed were men who could manage what they saw. Dmitri Koval had managed it for 3 days. Then he had packed his bag. Victor sat at his desk. He thought about Natalia. He thought about Pavel's way of tracking the door. He thought about Anya's face when he came home. He put the letter in the drawer. He had a meeting at 9. He went to his meeting. But the letter stayed in the drawer. And some things, once they are said plainly, cannot be filed away. Natalia Sorin did not see him leave. She had been upstairs when he walked out the front door. She had heard voices, Victor's and another, brief, the specific quality of something being said that she was not supposed to hear. She had stood at the top of the stairs and listened to the silence that followed. Then the front door. She had come downstairs. Victor was in his office. The door was closed. She went to the kitchen. She saw the coffee cup on the counter, still warm. She stood in the kitchen. She thought about 3 evenings ago. The corridor. The man in the doorway who had seen her and held the look and not looked away. She had been seen by her husband's employees before. They looked away, always, carefully, with the specific tact of people who understood what looking away was worth. He had not looked away. And then he had gone. She thought, why? She thought about asking Victor. She did not ask Victor. She spent 3 days thinking about it. On the 4th day, she called the agency that had placed him. "I'm calling about Dmitri Koval," she said. "He was placed with us briefly. I'd like to—" She stopped. "I'd like to understand why he left." The woman at the agency was careful. "Mrs. Sorin," she said, "Mr. Koval left for personal reasons. I'm not able to—" "He left after 3 days," Natalia said. "He declined a doubled salary. I'd like to understand why." A pause. "Mrs. Sorin," the woman said, her voice changed slightly. "Mr. Koval told us only that the position was not what he had expected." She paused. "He did say, and I'm telling you this because I think you should hear it, he said that the family deserved better protection than he was able to provide." Natalia stood in her kitchen. "Better protection?" she said. "Yes," the woman said, "that was what he said." Natalia looked at the window. "Thank you," she said. She hung up. She stood in the kitchen for a long time. She thought about a man who had been in her house for 3 days, who had seen her for 40 seconds in a lit kitchen, who had been offered twice his salary to stay, who had said, The family deserves better protection than I can provide. Not, your husband is dangerous. Not, you should leave. Not the intervention she had spent years fearing, the exposure, the conversation she was not ready for, the decision she could not make. Just, I can't do this work here. And he had walked out. She sat down at the kitchen table. She thought about what his leaving meant. She had spent 2 years telling herself the story that kept her in place, that no one saw, that no one knew, that what happened inside these walls was contained within them. She had been careful. She had been managed. A man had been in her house for 3 days. He had seen. He had not been able to stay. She sat with this. She thought, if a man who protects people for a living could not protect me here, what does that mean? She knew what it meant. She had known for 2 years. She was not ready on the 4th day. She was not ready on the 7th day. On the 14th day, she called her sister. I need to tell you something, she said. Her sister said, I know. I've been waiting. The 2 weeks were the longest she could remember. She went through the routines, the house, the children, the meals, Victor's schedule. She did all of it with the practiced completeness of a woman who had been managing surfaces for 2 years. And underneath, the sentence, the family deserves better protection than I can provide. She heard it at breakfast. She heard it at the school pickup. She heard it at 3 in the morning when she was not sleeping, which was most nights. She had spent 2 years telling herself stories. The stories were, it wasn't that bad. Other families had worse. He was under pressure. She had provoked it. She could manage it. The children didn't really understand. If she was careful enough, the surface would hold. The stories had the specific quality of things she had said so many times they had started to sound like facts. Then a man had been in her house for 3 days. He had 11 years of professional experience protecting people from harm. He had looked at her house and determined that the harm in it was not something he could protect her from. She thought about what that meant. If a man whose entire expertise was protection could not do his job here, what was she telling herself when she said she could manage it? She was managing it the way Pavel managed it, the way Anya managed it, tracking the weather, watching the door, staying close to the wall. She had been teaching her children to live like this. On the 14th day, she called her sister. She said, I need to tell you something. Her sister said, I know, I've been waiting. She said, You knew? Her sister said, I've been watching you not tell me for 2 years. She pressed the phone against her ear. Then why didn't you say something? She said. Because you had to say it, her sister said. It had to be yours. A pause. Is it yours now? She thought about a man packing a bag. She thought about a 9-year-old tracking weather. Yes, she said. Then tell me, her sister said. Tell me everything, and then we'll figure out what comes next. She told her. It took 2 hours. She had not said all of it out loud before. Some of it she had not said in any form, not to herself, not even in the versions she ran in her mind in the middle of the night. Saying it out loud to another person changed it. It became a thing that existed outside her, a thing that could be responded to. Her sister responded to it, not with drama, with the specific, practical love of a woman who had been waiting to help and finally had been allowed to. When they were done, her sister said, Thursday. She said, Thursday what? Her sister said, You leave Thursday. You and the children. 1 bag each for now. Everything else we get later. She sat with Thursday. She started. I know, her sister said. My husband's lawyer has been waiting for 2 years too. She knows what to do. She sat with this. She thought about Thursday. She thought about Pavel sleeping. Thursday, she said. The morning after they arrived at her sister's apartment, Pavel came to breakfast in his school uniform. He had put it on himself, set his alarm, made his bed. He sat at the table. He looked at the breakfast her sister had made. Simple, not what he was used to, the breakfast of a smaller apartment and a borrowed morning. He ate everything on the plate. Then he looked at his mother. "Is he going to find us?" he said. She had prepared for this question. She had practiced the answer in the way she prepared for things, carefully, thinking through every version. She said, "We are safe here. The lawyers are handling it. You don't need to manage that." Pavel looked at her. "I wasn't managing it," he said. "I was asking." She looked at her son. He was right. She had given him the managed answer when he had asked a real question. "I don't know," she said. "I think probably no, but I don't know for certain yet." He nodded. "Okay," he said. He went back to his breakfast. She watched him eat. She thought, this is what honesty looks like. He asked a real question, and I gave a real answer, and the world did not collapse. She thought about all the times she had given managed answers. She thought about what it had cost him to never receive a real one. "Pavel," she said. He looked up. "I'm sorry," she said, "for all the things I tried to manage, instead of just being honest with you." He looked at her for a moment. "I knew things were wrong," he said. "I didn't know if you knew." "I knew," she said. "Then why?" "I was afraid," she said. "I told myself I was protecting you. I think I was protecting myself from deciding." He was 9 years old. He sat with this the way he sat with most things, without rush, the way of someone who had learned to process carefully. Then he said, "The new man, the guard, he left because of Papa." It was not a question. "Yes," she said. "I heard them," he said. "The morning he left, I heard what he said." She looked at her son. "He said he couldn't protect us from the person we needed to be protected from," Pavel said. He looked at the table. "I thought about that for 2 weeks." "I know," she said. "I thought about it too." Pavel looked at her. "I'm glad we're here," he said. Simple, direct. The statement of someone who had been waiting to say a true thing for a long time. "Me too," she said. Anya appeared from the bedroom. She was carrying her stuffed rabbit and her school bag. She sat down. She looked at the breakfast. "Is there more?" she said. Natalia almost laughed. "Yes," she said, "there's more." She got up. She made more. She left on a Thursday. Dmitri did not know this. He was between positions. He had interviews, the work of transition, the careful reconstruction of a professional life that he had interrupted by doing the correct thing at the cost of the convenient one. He was managing it. He was, as he was with most things, methodical about it. He received a call on a Friday, a number he didn't recognize. He answered. "This is Natalia Sorin," she said. He was quiet for a moment. "I know who you are," he said. "I left yesterday," she said. "With the children. I'm at my sister's." She paused. "I wanted you to know." He stood at his window. Outside, the ordinary city, ordinary Friday. "I'm glad," he said. A silence. "The agency told me what you said," she said, "that the family deserved better protection." "Yes," he said. "I thought about that for 2 weeks," she said. "I thought about what it meant that you walked out." She paused. "I spent 2 years telling myself no one could see it, that it was contained." "It's never contained," he said. "No," she said, "it isn't." A silence. "My children," she said. "Pavel, Anya." She stopped. "I told myself I was protecting them by staying, by keeping the surface intact." Her voice was careful, each word placed. "I think I was protecting myself from the decision." He said nothing. I'm not calling for anything," she said. "I'm not asking for anything. I just—" She stopped. "You were in my house for 3 days. You didn't say anything to me directly. You didn't give me a speech or call someone or—" She paused. "You just left. And somehow, that was the thing. He looked at the window. I couldn't stay, he said. That's all it was. I couldn't do the work there. I know, she said. But you could have stayed for the money. You could have looked away. Everyone else did. He thought about the corridor, the 40 seconds, her face when she saw him. I'm not good at looking away, he said. I know, she said. I could see that. She paused. I think that's why I couldn't stop thinking about it. The silence was comfortable in the specific way of two people who did not need to fill it. Are you safe? He said. Yes, she said. My sister's building has good security. We'll stay here while things get arranged. Okay, he said. The children are, she paused. Pavel slept through the night last night. He hasn't done that in 2 years. She was quiet for a moment. He didn't know I was watching. He just slept. He stood at his window. He thought about Pavel's peripheral attention, the way he had checked which direction the car came from. He thought about a 9-year-old sleeping through the night. Good, he said. Yes, she said. A silence. I have to go, she said. Anya needs the routine. We're still building it. She paused. I wanted to tell you. I thought you should know that it mattered. What you did. I left, he said. That's all I did. I know, she said. It was enough. She hung up. He stood at the window. He thought about the letter on the desk, the sentence he had said in the kitchen, the bag already packed. He thought about the photograph on Victor Sorin's desk, the arranged composition, the correct smiles, the slight distance. He thought about Pavel sleeping through the night. He had been in that house for 3 days. He had not saved anyone. He had not intervened. He had not made a call or issued a warning or done any of the dramatic things that constituted a rescue in the way people imagined rescues. He had simply been unable to stay. And that had been, in the end, the only thing necessary. He thought, sometimes the most important protection is showing someone what a person looks like when they refuse to accept it. He went back to his list of calls to make. He had work to find. He found it. He rebuilt his professional life in 4 months. This was faster than he had expected. His references were strong. The years of correct work, the specific reputation of someone who was trusted by people who needed to be able to trust. The interruption of the Sorin position was noted in 2 conversations. He explained it as a position that had not been as described. This was true enough. The new position was with a family in the north of the city. A woman, 2 children, a business that required travel. The threat was external, real, the kind he was built to manage. He was good at it from the first week. He was also, he noticed, different in small ways. He had always been present in his work, but there was a quality of attention he brought now that had not been there before, or had been there but had not been applied consistently. He noticed the children, not as variables in a protection model, as people. The boy was 11. He liked football and hated homework, and had the specific social anxiety of a child navigating middle school. The girl was 8. She drew in the mornings before school, elaborate, detailed drawings, the kind that required sustained focus. He drove them to school. He waited. He asked them questions on the drive. Not strategic questions, real ones. He was, he thought, better at this work than he had been before. He understood that the understanding had come from Anya and Pavel and the 40 seconds in a lit kitchen and a packed bag. He understood that this was an expensive education. He thought it was worth the cost. Victor Sorin called him in March. Dmitri did not answer. He saw the number. He sat with the ringing phone. He let it go to voicemail. The voicemail was 4 minutes long. He listened to it once. Victor's voice had changed, not dramatically, but there was something in it that had not been there in the kitchen. The specific quality of a man who had lost the management of his own narrative. The lawyers, he said. The custody proceedings. Natalia had documentation. The lawyers had documentation, things he had not known existed, things that had apparently been assembled with care by people he had not known were assembling them. He was calling, he said, because he wanted Dmitri to know. What he wanted Dmitri to know was not entirely clear. The voicemail circled it rather than landing on it. Something about the sentence in the kitchen. Something about how he had thought about it. Dmitri listened. Then he deleted the message. He thought about calling back. He thought about what Victor Sorin needed from that call. Not what he said he needed, but what he actually needed. The call of a man who had done significant damage and was looking for a witness to some version of his accounting with it. Dmitri was not that witness. He deleted the message. He went back to work. He thought, there is a specific courage in leaving. There is also a specific courage in not being available for the performance of someone else's reckoning. He was unavailable. He stayed unavailable. That too was a decision he could live with. 6 months later, he was working for a family in the north of the city. Different work, simpler, quieter, the protection of people who did not need protection from each other. He drove the children to school. He was there when they arrived home. He learned the routes, the timing, the specific geography of a life that was not complicated. He was good at this work. He did it correctly. One evening, his phone showed a message from Natalia's number. A photograph. Pavel at a desk, homework spread out in front of him. His face. Dmitri recognized it immediately. The face of a boy who had been careful for a long time. Was the face of a boy simply doing homework. Nothing else in it. No peripheral tracking, no door checking, no management. Just a boy doing homework. Below the photograph, one line. He asked today if he could have a friend over after school. First time he's ever asked. He looked at the photograph. He thought about what it cost a child to stop asking. He thought about what it meant when they started again. He looked at the photograph for a long time. Pavel at a desk. The homework spread out in front of him. He could see the textbooks, the notebook, the specific organized chaos of a boy doing schoolwork. The lamp angled correctly, a glass of water, all the equipment of an ordinary evening. The face. He had studied faces for 11 years. He was good at reading them. He knew the face of vigilance, the specific arrangement of muscles around the eyes that indicated monitoring, the quality of attention directed outward rather than inward. Pavel's face was directed inward. He was thinking about homework. That was all. Dmitri sat with the photograph. He thought about the morning in the car. Anya saying, "Papa doesn't like rain." Pavel looking at his sister and saying nothing. He thought about what it had taken, not just Natalia's decision, not just Thursday, but the weeks after. The rebuilding of something new, the slow work of teaching children that ordinary was possible, to produce this photograph. He had not done that work. He had left after 3 days. He had made one sentence and packed a bag. And somehow, this. He understood, looking at the photograph, that this was the thing about refusing. The refusal itself was not the end of anything. It was the beginning of something he would never fully see. The long consequence of a single decision, rippling out into mornings and homework and a boy asking if a friend could come over after school. He had not known, in the kitchen, what his leaving would do. He had only known that he could not stay. That was, he thought, the right reason, the only reason. He typed back, "That's good news." She replied, "Yes." That was all. It was, he thought, entirely enough. In April, Natalia moved to a new apartment, not her sister's, her own. A building on the west side of the city, 3rd floor, 2 bedrooms, a window in the kitchen that faced a park. Smaller than the house, quieter than the house, entirely hers. Pavel chose which bedroom he wanted with the seriousness of a boy making a significant architectural decision. He chose the one with the view of the street. She asked him why. He said, "I want to see who's coming." She looked at her son. Then she said, "You don't have to do that anymore." He looked at her. "I know," he said. "I still want the view." She let him have the room. He was 9. He had spent years watching the door. He would stop watching eventually. She believed this. She held this belief with the firmness of a woman who had decided to believe things that required effort. He would stop watching when he understood, from enough repetitions of ordinary, that ordinary was the real thing. It would take time. She had time. Anya had already found a place for the rabbit on the new bed, and had identified a girl in the building who was 7 and liked drawing. She had knocked on her door the second day. Her sister had told her. She knocked. Just knocked. Natalia had held this. Just knocked. The confidence of a child who had been told enough times, in enough different ways, that ordinary was possible. She stood in her new kitchen on the first evening in the new apartment. She made dinner. Simple. Nothing elaborate. Pavel came in to set the table without being asked. Anya came in to monitor the cooking. "There's not enough salt," Anya said. "There's enough salt," Natalia said. "I think, Anya—" "Okay," Anya said. She went back to monitoring. Natalia stood at the stove. She thought about the kitchen she had stood in for 2 years, the way she had moved through it, the management of it. She thought about this kitchen, a window facing a park, enough salt, a daughter with opinions about the cooking. She thought, this is what ordinary looks like. It looked like exactly this. She added a small amount of salt. She did not tell Anya. Anya noticed immediately. "Better," she said. Natalia turned away so her daughter would not see her smile. If this story moved something in you, subscribe. And tell me in the comments, have you ever watched someone refuse to accept something, not loudly, not dramatically, just by walking away, and realized that their refusal gave you permission to refuse too? Because Natalia Sorin spent 2 years telling herself no one could see it. A man was in her house for 3 days. He saw. He packed his bag. And a 9-year-old boy slept through the night for the first time in 2 years. Tell me what you think.